It's the most desolate, degraded habitat I've ever seen when you don't go in and hunt the elephants. Go in and hunt them, all of a sudden things change, go back to where you start developing wildlife again.
But nobody cares to think about those consequences. Like we went to Zimbabwe, and I'm talking about there was an elephant around every single corner.
Yes.
Well, the bushbuck and the kudu, because all the underbrush was destroyed, were basically wiped out. But nobody has a bushbuck or a kudu stuffed animal, so they could give a crap.
Howdy, everybody. We got an old friend of mine with us, Larry Weishuhn. Larry is anybody who in the outdoor world, anybody who's ever watched outdoor TV or picked up a magazine or read about hunting, more than likely has seen his pretty face.
You're right about most of that. The pretty face, I don't think so.
But we've known each other for years. He is a fellow Texan. He's got a resume of experiences that is longer than your leg. He really do. And so he's been on, like I said, TV. He's written books. He's won more awards than I got fingers and toes. And so we're very fortunate to have him on here. And, you know, the podcast is just people who hunt. It's real simple as that. We're not trying to sell anything except hunting. That's it. We want to throw a big net out there. I don't, like I tell people, I don't care if you hunt for bullfrogs or bull elephant. It don't matter to me. I mean, if you're a hunter, I'm for you, and I want you to hunt. I want more people to hunt. So this is people who hunt. So I want to tell y'all thank you for watching online or listening to us. And Larry, to get started, tell everybody what you're doing now.
What am I doing now? Of course, we're here at the DSC convention, and I've served as an ambassador for DSC for a lot of years. To me, this is the finest conservation organization there is. But as far as me personally doing things, I moved to a smaller town and thought I was going to slow down, and I find myself doing more things than I was previously. Right now, I do a podcast that can be heard anywhere. It's called DSC's Campfires with Larry Weishuhn, and it's very similar to what you described with what this podcast is. And then I do another podcast for Sporting Classics with Luke Clayton called Campfires with Luke and Larry. And then I've been doing for about the last 16 or so years, maybe almost 17 years, a morning radio show with Luke Clayton. And there's a section in there, it's called Campfire Talk. It's a 15-minute section, and we've taken that radio show too and now made it available as a podcast there as well too. Then with Jeff Rice, who's a friend of both Luke's and mine, we do a weekly TV show or a digital TV show called A Sportsman's Life on Carbon TV.
So you're just slowing down a little bit, right?
I am slowed down.
The deal about it is the people watching, and I know I've been in love with the outdoors ever since I was a pup, just like you. Okay, this all we
absolutely.
Know. And the thing about it is the people that are not probably think, man, you must be rolling in the money. Tell them how rich you are. Tell them how much money you make doing this.
If you'll buy me a cup of coffee today, I'll be really rich. I'll tell you.
I mean, and so people go, well, why do you do it? Tell them why you do it.
It has nothing to do with the money side of things. To me, as long as I can make enough money to basically pay my bills and take care of my family, it's not there. You know, I was asked on another podcast 2 days ago about why do I hunt. It's because I am. We're all hunters.
Yeah.
It makes no difference in whether you hunt animals or whether you're hunting for a deal or you're hunting for your lady you're looking for or hunting for a purse or a particular dress. That's all hunting in its own kind of way. So to deny they're not hunters, they're lying to themselves.
Yeah, you know, I wound up the other day, I was telling somebody, I said that I love to fish. But fishing, you know what, fishing, we're hunting for something we just can't see. Mm-hmm. Underneath that dock, underneath that rock, you
absolutely.
Know, we're hunting, you know. So we're always hunting. I'm hunting for a hot dog out here at lunchtime, you know. So, Johnny, I know you've been, you grew up just like we did in the outdoors, and you're a completely different generation than we are. Tell everybody what your vision was, because you're helping co-host a TV show, and you've been, and I brought him on as a cameraman, and so tell everybody about how maybe your vision of what it was going to be like is different than what it really is.
Totally different. You know, everybody, and there are parts of it that are glamorous. I'm not saying it's not, but there's a lot that goes into it. so much that goes into it that people don't understand. And everybody's like, oh, I want to film my hunts. I want to get a camera. It's like, well, it's a lot more than that. And the huge benefit that I had, I've always wanted to be in this industry. Growing up, me and my brothers always talked about it. Man, imagine we get on one of them hunting TV shows. Well, I had the benefit of, starting out by working for Keith. And he did a fantastic job of, it wasn't just like, hey, there's the camera, like, go point and shoot it. No, it was, he's taught me every aspect of this business and all the all the little details that go into it that you need to know to be successful in it. And it's a lot more than just, pointing a camera and shooting. We were talking the other day that a lot of animals get saved by that camera because he won't shoot unless we got it on film. So the industry has really been opened up to me by working with you and meeting people like Larry and everybody else to where it's fantastic, but it is a challenge to get it done. Nonstop travel and all the stuff you got to do on the road. But it's also a heck of a lot of fun. I know you have fun doing it.
Oh, no.
No.
So Larry, let me ask you, what is your favorite trip you've ever been on? I know you've been asked that a lot, so you ought to be able to answer it like right now.
Well, usually I can answer it in a very few words. The next one I'm going on.
There you go.
It makes no difference. Actually, I'm going on a deer hunt, and then I got a squirrel hunt coming up right after it. So, to me, I've been very fortunate, as you have. I've hunted the world. The only plate continent I've not been on is Antarctica, and frankly, I have no desire to go down there.
Right.
But at the same time, to me, I love to hunt. I love big game. I love small game, and sometimes when we talk about hunting, there's this equating of maybe that hunting means you're a deer hunter. You don't hunt anything else. But to look at it truthfully, you probably started off somewhat like I did. When I grew up in Texas back in the 50s, there were deer, and we hunted deer every year. But by gosh, if you saw a deer when you were out hunting, you were a hero. If you shot one, oh my gosh, they carried it around on a pedestal, for weeks.
Yeah.
But we also hunted small game, and to me, there's so many opportunities out there now to hunt small game in terms of squirrels, in terms of rabbits, and all of them are edible too.
Yeah, but think about this. I mean, back in the day, okay, when there weren't hardly any deer. I know it's hard for people today that they weren't around or hunting back then to realize that we are blessed with such an abundance of wildlife today that this country has never seen the abundance of wildlife like it is today, ever. And so this richness in the wildlife that we have, I think, is just an opportunity. It's more opportunity for people to hunt. But tell everybody, why, in your opinion, you think that we have all this wildlife today that we didn't back then?
Well, to begin with, we've learned that wildlife has value, not only intrinsic value with what we love, but also from a financial value. And that financial value is what really has driven the number of animals, because the preservation, and not the preservation, I hate that term, and now that I think about it, it's wildlife conservation is the wise use of. And what we've learned is that by managing our populations and managing for the game species, and I include with those upland game, migratory, big game, as we've done that, we've greatly increased the habitat all the way around. And when we've done that, as we've improved the habitat, we've improved the health and the reproduction, or the productivity of those animals as well too. So that, and an awareness between landowners, some of the governmental agencies, and hunters as well too, to where it's not, let's see how many we can shoot.
We're educating people.
We're educating people. Maybe it's if times are hard for animals, and say the quail limit is 12 a day. Well, it doesn't mean that you have to shoot 12 birds. If your quail population is somewhat suppressed, you may want to shoot 3 or 4 of them, kind of thing. And that's the one thing that good hunters do.
Well, I think that it's like anything else in life. You start somewhere as a kid. And when as a kid, I didn't start with a gun hunting. I started by just going outside,
right,
climbing trees, throwing rocks, digging holes, fighting. Just being outside. And then it grew into, I just wanted to go hunting, and I got to go. My dad is the one who really started me. Who started you?
My dad, my mom, and particularly my maternal grandfather. My dad worked in the oil field. We were also in the cattle business, the hog business, and chicken business, and all that kind of stuff when I was a little bitty kid. But my granddad was a county commissioner, and every morning on the way to the county barn to get the guys going, he'd come by, and if before school before there was school for me. He'd pick me up, and we'd go dig worms, and we'd go fishing. We hunted squirrels. We hunted doves. We hunted deer, although we didn't care anything about deer hunting. But he would make sure that I get the chance to go deer hunting, as as did my mom and dad. So they were the ones who really got me interested in it. My mom used to read for me from as far back as I can remember, from Field and Stream and Outdoor Life, and that within just kind of instilled within me that desire to continue to do what I did. But those are the people that got me started. Unfortunately, these days we don't have that in a lot of situations.
I look at the way that our business has changed, the outdoor business has changed, and the evolution of all the new things that are coming. Game cameras, for example. I mean, look at guns. I mean, guns today. I mean, 30 years ago, you wouldn't consider shooting 1,000 yards at a target and hitting it. Now it's like, come on, they're shooting 1,000+ yards at a target. I mean, the technology is driving our industry to places it's never been before, and there are some people that are in the hunting space that I guess they just don't like the technology. They want it, but that's the cool thing about hunting. You choose how you hunt.
You can. You spent time like at the FTW Ranch, and I know you're dealing with several other people right now that teach people how to shoot. I love to hit that target and ring that bell at 1,000 yards. When it comes to a hunting situation, I limit myself to about maybe 300 yards. And to me, within me, I want to get as close as I can before I pull that trigger, be it with I don't shoot a bow, I shoot a crossbow very rarely, handguns or anything else. But to me, the challenge comes in getting close. But if somebody else wants to shoot, those great distances, if they're proficient, and we're now fortunate to where we have the rifles that are accurate enough, we have the bullets that are accurate enough, and we have the optics that are accurate enough for somebody really wants to do that, they can darn sure do so, and it be practiced so that they know where they're going to hit when they pull the trigger.
I am concerned personally about the biggest. I want to know what you think the biggest threat to the hunting community is. I think it's not going to surprise me what your answer is. So,
there was a cartoon many years ago, and there was a possum in the cartoon. His name was Opus. He said, "I've seen the enemy, and it is us." And sometimes we need to. We there's so many different little facets. Well, I don't like hunting with hounds. I don't like people hunting this way. I don't like people hunting this way. That's what we need to get past to form a unified effort. I see that as if we can do that, they can't throw enough bad stuff at us. I mean, we can overcome anything if we can combine. But there are different ways. And social media, in a lot of ways, has ways of dividing.
Yeah.
If somebody has a problem or something happens, oh my God, everybody very quickly condemns this person. Well, maybe they don't know the entire circumstances, kind of thing. So,
that's a great point. They don't know. It's like I'll never forget. When it finally occurred to me, it's like, sometimes, why do I do this? I was in Kansas. It was 8 degrees. It was blowing snow at about 40 miles an hour, and I was in a tree. And I was waiting for the sun to come up, and I thought, and I'm hunting there, and I'm thinking, how much money would somebody have? And money would have to be paid to me for me to want to do this. I'm doing this for a job,
Yes.
And it's like, I'm miserable, but I love it still.
Yes.
But this is the part that people don't see.
No.
Okay?
Especially with social media, where you don't get to see that whole story lay out.
Right. They want it right now.
Yeah.
Okay. And the sun doesn't set right now. Okay. I mean, a tree doesn't grow right now. I mean, the things in nature take time to unfold. It's like foreplay. Okay. I mean, it is. It's just nature's foreplay. It comes out, and it takes a while. And so, how do you see these hunters and the social media? I think social media can be our friend.
Absolutely.
Big time. There's a lot of good that comes to social media.
Yes.
But it can be our foe as well,
Yes.
don't you think?
Yeah, it can. And I think a lot of times we need to think before we push send, if you will, or before we do those kind of things. Because you can say the same thing and offend somebody. You can say the same thing, and most of the people will take it as a huge compliment. So to me, you got to look at things. It's one word can make a lot of difference, or a letter in a spelling can make a lot of difference too.
What's weird is that people have learned to communicate on these damn things. Okay, it's like last night I said, "Hey, Larry," okay,
Yeah.
and text back and forth rather than picking up the phone and hearing your voice,
Right?
Okay, because it's convenient, and the deal about it is things can be misinterpreted through text messages,
Oh, yes.
through emails, and through Facebook posts. Okay?
Yes.
And that's what concerns me, because all of a sudden, is the answer no, or is it no?
Right.
Okay, I mean, so how do we get over past as hunters, get past this? How do we police ourselves? How do we begin to get on the right path?
I hate the term. That's actually a very good question, but it is, and I think it's through what we're doing right here more so than anything else, is getting the word out to where we make people think. I used to have a professor at A&M. His name was Dr. Richard Baldoff, and he would assign chapters to read, and then we'd have a pop test the next day, and it would be a fill in the blank, and the fill in the blank was not the scientific name. It wasn't a description of the species or whatever, but it would be the letter A or the letter THE or THEY. Those were the fill-in terms. And if you just kind of looked, you go, oh my God, you get risk. But if you paid attention, you found that it was very simple. And I think that's sometimes that we could learn something from him, is just doing those kind of things.
Go ahead, Johnny.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I'm excited to be talking about this, especially from the hunting perspective. And when I think back to conservation, you've done quite a bit of hunting in Africa.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you were getting at earlier is that you feel the most pressure, negative pressure, from other hunters. Is that correct?
At times you do. At times you do, and it's like my God, how can they're hunters, but they're going, how can you shoot that animal? Well, you learn the entire story, and where we can go with this is just like it's headlines. It's like we're at DSC. We've been at this particular location now for a bunch of years. We're having to move to Atlanta because they're tearing this building down. This will not be here next year for DSC.
Okay, and there's some people, not to jump in, but I'm telling you, some people go, why the hell are they moving to Atlanta? That's the dumbest thing in the world.
Is.
It's like, do you think that there's a reason maybe?
And what happened is the headlines read when they first came out is DSC is moving to Atlanta. Nobody ever read the explanation why. And once you start explaining it to them, says, well, it's going to be a construction site, and I don't think you're going to let our exhibitors or us in,
Oh, yeah, there's more to the story.
So, to me, I can equate that to what we're saying so very often. Or it's a photograph, and people take that photograph totally wrong.
Yes.
Or maybe it's a photograph with a description of just something very brief, as we have a tendency to do, because it takes up less space and less time, and all of a sudden people go, oh my God, I can't believe this.
Yeah, and then the thing about it is when you put it out there, you can never take it back.
No, if it's there, that's the reason I went back to before you press send, think what you said and think what that long term can do, kind of thing.
It is amazing to me how the internet has been able to bring people together for good, but also allow people to do really bad, and it's almost like they can do so anonymously. And not have any consequence to it. And the consequence may not be to them directly, but it's to all hunters in general.
It is.
So, like Africa, for instance,
yes,
because I always enjoy this debate.
Right.
Is we get a lot of people commenting like they're hunters, they're deer hunters, they love hunting deer.
Right.
But then we put up a video with a zebra or something else, and they're like, "Well, I don't know how you can do that. How you can do that? Can you explain that a little bit? How?" Everything.
I can tell you about the zebra. I grew up having to deal with bad horses, and every time I have an opportunity to shoot one, it's recalling like what I wanted to do with that horse when I was growing up. But and that's kind of tongue in cheek, but there is some fact to it. But I love when people say, "I can't believe you shoot a zebra," and I said, "Oh my God, they're the best tasting animal I've ever eaten in all of Africa." Kind of thing. And zebras are like anything else. You have to control them. There's X amount of food available. There's X amount of habitat. Predation in itself is not, people go, well, let's, like with the release of the wolves in Colorado right now. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of.
I know.
There are a few wolves there, but what's going to happen is those wolves and a lot of those ears, they're going to go in and, they're going to control the elk. They're going to control the deer. Yeah, they're going to control them to nothing, to where there's no animals left. Then they're going to start working on
on livestock.
Yeah. And then eventually they'll end up in people's backyards eating dogs and cats kind of thing. They're pets.
And what's scary is I don't think people really look that far forward. There are some people go, oh, we're bringing wolves back. Oh, that's great. They're not vegetarians.
They're not vegetarians. And wolves, and there's a few other predators, they say that humans kill simply for the pure joy of killing. I can tell you that mountain lions, coyotes, all the cats, the wolves in particular, love to kill animals, and they'll eat just a little bit, and then they're gone.
Yeah.
The same, you mentioned in Africa, I've been very fortunate to have been over a lot of different places in Africa, and there's like 7 countries in Africa that allow elephant hunting, and about 90% of that elephant population in Africa is in those countries, because those animals have an economic value and all those other kind of things to the locals as well too. That's the reason they're elephants there.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that eating just a little bit, an elephant, and I've been in some of these areas where they were not hunting, some of the national parks, to where the elephant walks up to a tree, knocks over a tree, eats one limb.
Yep.
And goes on to the next one, knocks that one over. And over a period of time, I've been in some of these places where there were initially not a whole lot of elephants, and then they didn't hunt them. And guess what? And when we were there initially, when they hunted them, you had every imaginable bird species there, every insect species, every small mammal species, every reptilian species, amphibian species, big game species, plains game. And then all of a sudden, here come the elephants, and the elephants destroy everything. And now there are no songbirds.
Yeah.
There are no insects, because there's nothing else from the insects to live from. So then there are no birds or any of these other animals, no vegetation left. And so it's very unfortunate. It's the most desolate, degraded habitat I've ever seen when you don't go in and hunt the elephants. Go in and hunt them, all of a sudden things change, go back to where you start developing wildlife again.
But nobody cares to think about those consequences. Like we went to Zimbabwe, and I'm talking about there was an elephant around every single corner.
Yes.
Well, the bushbuck and the kudu, because all the underbrush was destroyed, were basically wiped out. But nobody has a bushbuck or a kudu stuffed animal, so they could give a crap.
Yeah.
From outside U.S. involvement, they discontinued the hunting of lions and of elephant. And the wildebeest and zebra herds were basically decimated.
Right.
And then all the, like you said, just totally changes the game when you're not managing these animals. And that's why people don't understand. It's like, just because it's not a whitetail in your backyard, especially hunters, still needs to be managed.
All animals need to be managed. I mean, and humans, unfortunately, is a different deal. And we forget sometimes, too, that we are animals, and we are part of the ecosystem.
Boy, by God, do we need to be managed.
Yeah, and that's a good point, is we've changed too many things on this planet to not be involved and to not have a say.
You're exactly right. Yeah.
You can't just let it run wild.
No. That, everybody goes, well, we want to go see it go back to the wild. The wild situation in a lot of areas is a monoculture of plants. And in a monoculture of plants, it's like a cornfield. Yeah, there's a few animals there. But if you just have nothing but cornfield, there's nothing else there after a while. And so to me, it's like I've been, as a wildlife biologist, I've had the opportunity to take properties that were abused, whether it was through livestock, or too many animals, or nothing having done to it, and take a baseline of the vegetation that is there in terms of the species and the songbirds and all the other animals that are there as a baseline, and then start managing that property for white-tailed deer or turkey or quail or mule deer or elk or whatever the situation was, to where you manage that habitat. And guess what happens? All of a sudden you've got greater variety of vegetation. When you have that greater variety of vegetation, then it brings in bugs, butterflies, all those kind of things, which provides food for songbirds. And then you got all this vegetation coming in, different types of vegetation. And this animal likes this thing, this kind of like this kind. And all of a sudden you go from having virtually no wildlife there to having a huge abundance of wildlife that can be enjoyed not only by the hunter, because the hunter is paying for all that, but also those birds and animals that we don't hunt. But they benefit more than we do, or they do.
When we started out, we said, back in the day when we were kids, there wasn't hardly any deer at all. Okay, and so what we've learned is that those practices generate income for people. They generate a tremendous population and improvement in the amount of wildlife and habitat because people are taking care of it better. But the thing about it is now there's people that want to go back to the way it was. I think be careful. Be careful. I mean, because those wolves, they're not going to eat the tree roots. They're not.
No, they are not vegetations. It's kind of along those same lines. Years ago, I was a whitetail columnist for a major magazine, and they wanted me to do a piece on predators because they were just starting to release grizzly bears or trying to encourage and wolves and all this kind of thing. And so I said, okay, I'd love to do that. So I wrote a piece about reintroducing the grizzly bear, the mountain lion, the wolves, and I thought the ideal habitat for grizzly bears was Sacramento, Los Angeles. After all,
I agree
grizzly
with
bear is on the flag. It's the state animal.
Yes, it is.
So if we're going to release them, all that was prime grizzly country. There were more grizzlies in California than there were anywhere else. And same thing with wolves. A lot of different. Of course, the wolves they brought down are not the wolves that were here. The wolves that we had throughout most of the U.S. were kind of glorified coyotes when you get right down to it. But I told them, I said, look at all the benefits that it would do. I'm very pro for. I said, because look, it would do this. It would do away with the homeless population. If you released them in New York City and even San Antonio, Austin, I mean, that would take care of itself. The overpopulation of pets, there would be no overpopulation of pets, kind of thing. And I said, after all, the people that live in those cities that don't have to deal with those animals, they're the ones who want to see them. So by God, let's give them to them.
Let's let them see them. See, this thing gets me. Decisions on wildlife are they should be made by people that know something about wildlife, okay? But then you have these states that put these initiatives out there, and they listen to what the public says.
But it's a small part of it's a small
it's
public.
the
loudest part.
And they have no idea what they're talking about. They're dealing with their heart and not their head, and they don't understand. They're looking at short term versus long term, and they're just uneducated. That's the reason why I think that we've got a duty to people to be able to help wake people up. Number one,
we do
make them aware of that we have tremendous problems if we're concerned about the future of the outdoors. Okay, but it has to start with our own family of hunters. Okay, that we need to encourage more of them to become activists. I mean, think about that.
Do you know what's going on in California with the mountain lions?
Not the latest problem.
Exactly what we're talking about. They shut down all hunting of mountain lions, all that, and now they're way overpopulated. You can find tons of videos online of attacking people, coming up on them
in their backyards.
Yeah. So now they've stopped all the hunting. All the income that would normally come from buying tags and all that has stopped. And then they get overpopulated, and then the government's going in and killing them, and nothing good's coming out of it.
No.
Yeah.
But that's letting the public. That's letting the tail wag the dog.
Exactly.
Yes. The public coming in there and say, "Oh, we don't like that." It's like years ago, and I don't know if they do it in Colorado anymore or not, about black bears. It used to be that you went and you bought your bear tag, and when the bear tags were sold out, they were sold out. Okay, you're not going to go. Well, what was happening? The animal rights people were going and buying up all the bear tags, and of course they're not going to hunt, but they buy up all the bear tags to prevent you from buying a bear tag because you're going to smoke one.
Yeah.
Okay, and so they looked at that as just an opportunity to save the bears. And that's like the death sentence on bears. It's like, wait a minute, like California, literally black bears in Northern California, you get up in Northern California, there's black bears everywhere.
Oh, yes.
Everywhere.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've been there. You're right.
It's stupid with black bears. It's like, I've gone to places and you couldn't throw your hat down without throwing it on a track. They're everywhere. But the deal about it is they stopped hunting with hounds over there. As a matter of fact, we did a video. I think it was the last year that they allowed hound hunting for bears. And I thought, what a shame. I mean, because hound hunting for bears, if nobody's ever done it, it's a great deal. Hunting with dogs,
my gosh,
is great.
And it's not easy.
No, I mean, I can tell you what,
not easy.
Keeping up with the dogs. So I'm going to tell you this little story. So I'm over in California doing this. I wanted to do it because it was like, okay, this will be the last time this is ever done. I could ever do it because they're outlawing it. And I show up and I'm scared to death because I'm not in shape at all. And you know the way you got to be up and down those mountains.
Yes, sir.
I mean, keeping up with those dogs. And so anyway, I get over there and this guy I'd been talking to, his name was Charlie, the outfitter. And so I'm scheduling, I met him up one morning. And I said, what are you driving? He said, I'll be driving a gray Dodge, blah, blah, blah. Pulled up there. And I get out and Charlie opens the door and he's about 400 pounds. I was like, I think I'm going to be okay.
I'm good.
So anyway, yeah. But hunting bears, I love it. And people go, why would you want to hunt it with dogs? It's like, wait a minute. think about it. There's a reason why that's done. Yeah, the dogs love doing it, and we love doing it, but you can shoot the right bear. And as a hunter, we're always about shooting the right animal.
Absolutely. You know, to me, that they did away, of course, with the spring bear season in Colorado as well 2 years ago, and several other states. That's the ideal time. You know, there were no sows and cubs being taken. You know, you could selectively take that old boar that came in, and same thing with the dogs. Put that bear up a tree. You know, nope, that's a young bear. We're going to walk away from it.
Yep.
You know, the only thing that bear's done is had a little bit of exercise.
Yeah.
You know. He's exercised the heck out of us trying to get there.
But the thing about it is we have, like I said, we have a duty to help people understand why we do this. And so when we have hunters say, yeah, I'm a hunter, but man, I would never hunt bears over bait. Then don't do it. Then that's okay.
That's
you
your
don't
choice.
have to do it.
Absolutely. And I promise you, most of those folks, if they'd ever done it, they would be hooked because you're sitting up there and you're watching birds the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
And you get to watch the interaction of those
The
bears.
squirrels come down, and
yes,
it's not just bear hunting. It's wildlife watching.
It's wildlife watching. It's exactly it. That's what it is.
And so as hunters, I say that I don't care if you're after bucks or ducks. It doesn't matter.
No.
Okay.
No.
You're a hunter, and I think that we need to look for that common thread that pulls us together as a hunter, rather than divides us. And social media is something that divides us.
It continually. It's almost like the antis have planned this, and we're falling right into their traps, and we are because just because of what you mentioned.
We wound up for example, there's stuff that's put online. That's AI stuff is blowing my mind with what's going on. I mean, you can all these pictures and all this stuff. You can create anything, and it makes me start wondering what's real. I mean, literally, what's real when you see it online, and they've got these pictures that are generated they're not real. Okay, no. And so you have a public that is not aware. They can't distinguish whether it's fact or fiction. Okay, and so they're making decisions based upon wrong information that's been presented to them. How do we fix that?
I'm not sure. I wish I had the answer. I don't. But to me, it's more of, it goes back to what we're doing right here, is putting the word out. And hopefully with guys like you and I who've been around a long time and who should have earned some respect over a period of time where people might listen to us, but then also bringing guys like Johnny into the play who can relate to them being a much younger crowd. Than maybe you and I can, but I think it's education, and it's the education of the masses. But education, if I can convince one person of something, chances are he may tell somebody else. I used to get on the plane, and there was a period of time, and I did not want to look like a hunter, and then I thought, this is BS. I want to engage with people. So I started wearing camo, even though I might not be hunting in camo, but I wear it when I was going on a plane. And, just to engage people. And you could come with, if you talk to somebody, if somebody doesn't have a totally closed mind, it doesn't take you very long to convince them that hunting is the best tool there ever was for wildlife. Again, going back to wildlife conservation is the wise use of. Conservation provides life and increases life. Preservation kills life.
And I don't think people really understand that concept, how you can, conserve something and love an animal, but still go out and hunt it.
How do you explain that? Yeah. I mean, I have a really hard time telling people, because they'll say, I love animals. I love them too. I probably love them a whole lot more than you. Oh, really? Then why do you kill them? Because I love them. And
because I know that if hunting is not here, if we don't hunt certain species, all wildlife and habitat is destroyed. That's one of the reasons I really do hunt. I mean, all of us are hunters, like I mentioned earlier, but part of the reason for me is from a biological perspective. Mm-hmm. I know that if I can take a few animals to preserve the habitat, and that's the wrong term, to conserve the habitat, the wise use of, then others will benefit. Not just those animals that I'm hunting, but the plants themselves, and again, the butterflies and the beetles and the songbirds and all those other kind of things. So that's where I go back to, how can you shoot white-tailed deer? White-tailed deer, my favorite animal there is on the face of this earth. And I love them. I dearly love them. There's nothing that I wouldn't do to try to keep white-tailed deer here. And that means I have to hunt them so that I can conserve that habitat, wisely manage the habitat that they live in, and the herds. And a healthy herd is based upon good, healthy habitat.
Well, I know things, we were talking about advancements in hunting and stuff like that. When I was growing up, we didn't really look at the age structure. There were no talk of inches or ages or anything like that.
If it's brown, it's down.
Yeah, yeah. And if you had a little basket 12-point or a big old 8-point, the guy who got that 12-point was the man. It could be a 2-year-old little basket. But no, now it's like, okay, especially now that I've been working with Keith, it's like you're looking at that animal, you're aging the animal.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how big his antlers are. You're taking out the most mature one you can to manage properly. And I think that's like one of the biggest advancements is people are considering their management decisions more.
They are. To me, it's always been based on age, and it's interesting because Keith and I are sitting here. I'm older than Keith is by a little bit, but he's gray beard and I'm gray beard. You know, if it came down to perpetuating the human species, he and I are no longer worth a darn.
Oh, that's not true.
No, because you can learn from the. To me, you learn from the elder experiences, kind of thing. But I mean, from a strictly biological perspective, I mean, if we took you and your age class out of the equation, the human population would go away. If humans didn't die, we'd be in ungodly serious trouble as a human species. I mean, we probably would no longer exist because we'd run out of food a long time ago. So if somebody has to go by the wayside, it's a whole lot better for somebody my age than it is for your age, for that population to continue.
Yeah. You know, one thing that I look at when I go to the conventions like this, I look at the average age of the hunter, and I know you do the same.
Oh, absolutely.
We're getting on the bus yesterday, the shuttle bus coming over here, and I thought, average age is 55. Seriously. I mean, and it may be even higher than that.
Yeah.
Okay. And that concerns us all in the hunting industry, and it should concern anybody in the hunting world, because we need more Johnnies. We need more little kids. Okay. We started out young, and when I was a little boy, okay, my father would bring me and my brother up here in Dallas, and every one of these sports shows, we'd go and we'd take every pamphlet we could take. I mean, it was like, that's what we did, and we got home, we had stacks, and all those people in those booths, probably, here come the Warren boys again, God. But we dreamed of going on these trips, and now there's no kids. And so that way, when I look down the aisle and I see a family that's bringing their kids, I would go out of my way. Hey, thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
How old are you, son? I'm 8. Do you like to hunt? Yes, sir. Thank you. Are you anybody else in your class hunt? No, sir. You know, I mean, it's sad that we're not getting these kids, but I will tell you this. I think that because these kids that are out there that could be brought up into hunting now, their parents aren't into hunting. They don't have a mentor. And so, I think that all of us, some in our DNA, are hunters, like you said. But some of us, it's more. We have more of this desire than others. Hunting's not for everybody.
I mean, it's not.
Okay, you know? And so when these kids are out there, I think, where do they turn to get an idea how to hunt? And I found that demographically, when we take a look at our demographics on YouTube, 18 to 44 years old is where 70% of our audience lies. It's unbelievable.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
18
fantastic,
to 44, 70%. And it's like, and so the other day I had a kid walk up to me. I was in Georgia, and he comes walking up to me and introduced himself, and I said, "Where do you watch?" He says, "I watch all your stuff on YouTube." I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, no offense." He looks at me and I said, "No, you're not going to offend me. I guarantee you that. You will not offend me." He says, "Because you're an old guy." And I said, "Okay." He says, "There's nobody young that I trust to teach me." He says, "You've already been there, done that." He says, "Old guys like you, you have the experience and the knowledge and the wisdom to be able to advise somebody new like me to try to get into it." I thought, wow. That's good.
That's good is right.
Okay, because we need, and then I got other guys just like you, that you get a 50-year-old man walk up and go, "Man, I've been watching you since I was a kid." Oh, shut up. I'm not that old. But we need to educate. We need to recruit these kids coming up and have more opportunity instead of less.
We do. I was very fortunate. In 1985, we formed the Texas Wildlife Association. I was the guy that got things started on all that, and we created the Texas Youth Hunting Group. And as of that's in 85, we really started that like in 90, so probably about 30 years ago. Since that time, we've taken over 80,000 kids in Texas hunting that we've introduced. Now, will all those kids continue hunting? Chances are no, But we had the opportunity to where now when somebody says hunting is bad, they go, wait a minute, I got to go hunting and I had a good time, and this is why I had a good time. Or the food that we gathered during that time frame was out of this world.
And they'll never forget that.
And they'll never forget it. I did an inspirational talk years ago to a bunch of professional ball players, baseball players, football players, all the professional types. And I was asked, what's your favorite sport? And somebody, all they looked at and go, it's baseball, football, all that kind of stuff, hunting and fishing. And they go, and you could see them hunting and fishing. I said, how many of y'all remember that play baseball, hitting your first home run, catching the first ball, scoring the first goal, first tackle? And very few people held up their hand. And I said, now if you grew up anywhere where there was an opportunity to hunt or fish or outdoor opportunity, how many of y'all remember that? And nearly everybody in there held up their hand. Mm-hmm. And that included some of the very urban type bases of growing up as well too. So those are the memories that you recall the rest of your life. You will remember exactly what you're going through your mind, how the animal approached, all those kind of things.
You remember the weather. You remember your clothes. You remember the gun.
Exactly,
you remember every single thing. And guess what? And so do you. Everybody out there. Everybody
understands
There's
that.
something magical about that.
Yes.
And it's like if we could take that magic and give it to people, we could do such a good job.
I wish there were a way we could put it into a liquid container or
and sell it.
Or no, just
give it away. I'm kidding, but
give it away.
It's free.
It's free.
You just got to give it to yourself.
And it is free in a lot of different ways. Everybody says, hunting is so expensive. If you looked at what hunting costs are these days in terms of licenses and all that kind of stuff, and you compared to the cost to the personal income from now to 1955, I can't remember the exact percentage, but the folks in 1950s spent the same percentage of their annual income on hunting and fishing than what those people that hunt and fish do today.
Wow.
It has not changed, the percentage. Of course, the dollar figures, I can remember picking up 80-pound sacks of salt out of a railroad car to carry into a barn and getting paid 25 cents an hour to do it 8 hours a day,
Oh, yeah.
And when I'd use those quarters that I got to buy 22 shells,
Mm-hmm. And don't miss.
And don't miss. And don't miss.
They taught you to be a better shot.
I just did an article for the 2025 Guns Digest Annual, and the title of which is 70 Years of Buck Fever. And it goes back to when I first started hunting as a little bitty kid, literally a little bitty kid. My first deer rifle was a Model 33 single shot Remington 22 long rifle. The third Model 33 was the first bolt action they ever made, Remington ever made, kind of thing. And then kind of took it progressively from there to through the line of guns and optics to some extent and ammo to some extent to where we are today. So, you can go, but you don't need to have a gun that's capable of shooting 1,000 yards to go out and have fun and to go out and plink. 22s ammo is still readily available. Yeah. Again, thank you.
Yep.
And so why not start on something like that?
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question, Larry, because we're going to get out of here.
Yes, we need to. We both got to go to work.
So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how would they go about doing so?
We just put up a new website. It's called LarryWeishuhn.net. It's LarryWeishuhn.net, and they can see the podcast there that I do and the TV show, and I usually do 4 different blogs a month that go to different places, but I'll also appear there. And we're right in the process now of where there will be an email address there from there. Or they can do, I do a lot of stuff with Luke Clayton, and who has catfishradio.org, and they can send an email there to me as well, too. So that's a way they can personally get in touch with me, but, there are other ways, too, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay, so let me ask you this. How long are you going to keep doing this? You've been doing this your whole life.
I'm going to be doing this until the good Lord calls me home.
Oh, man, brother.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I'm not about to give up.
What's your next hunt?
The next hunt is actually, we're up here. We've got a cold weather moving in here right at the tail end of the DSC convention. I'm going just southeast of here on a whitetail deer hunt where we need to take some does off the property at this point that we haven't done, and so I'm going to go take some does and try to fill some billies back home.
Nice.
Hey, let me ask you this: because does need to be taken and to manage. Haven't you found it easier to take does out early in the season than late in the season?
It's a whole lot easier to take them out early.
See, I've always,
I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah.
But we were just in a situation here where we don't take. It's not a commercial operation.
Mm-hmm.
They're just family members basically that hunt it. And this year, people just did not have the time early to hunt. So, with this cold weather moving in that we've got, those deer are going to be hungry, so they're going to be visible. So in this instance, it's going to be easier to take them. But absolutely, to me, if you need to take does off property, I'd recommend to people that they do it the first earliest legal opportunity to do so.
And tell them why.
Well, it leaves a whole lot more food available for anything else, as far as I'm concerned.
And the sexual stress that the bucks don't have to go through to breed them.
And that's exactly right. That's also plays very strongly into that. And you're removing those mouths out of the equation, so that those younger animals that are there, and a whitetail fawn, once that fawn gets to be 4 months of age, essentially it can make it without any problem at all. I mean, and never even know that it's been affected, because it's not been affected.
And one reason why, too, that does need to be taken, because doe fawns can also be bred, and they are bred.
I know we're running out of time, but I used to take care of a ranch where we did everything right in terms of nutrition and all this kind of stuff, and we continually produced spikes. We're going. So I got a special permit to go in and kill 26-month-old does, or by then 7-month-old, like in March. And this, with the high nutrition that we had, 80% of those doe fawns were bred. Mm-hmm. And that poor little doe fawn, she's trying to grow body, she's trying to develop fetus, and she's going to try to produce milk. She can't do all those. Mm-hmm. And so those fawns really suffer.
And think about this. It's 196 days from the time they're bred before they have the offspring. Okay, so you add 196 days onto that. And those fawns are being born in August when it's 110 degrees, or September.
Or September. Even,
okay,
yeah.
and so they stay on the mom for 100 days. Okay, so by the time they're still on their mom, come opening day of season, okay, I mean it's a vicious cycle.
It is.
Okay, and that's the reason why you got to stay on it. So
you do. There's not like it's kind of like going to Africa. Somebody will call me and says, "I'm thinking about going to Africa," and I said, "Don't go." Yeah. They go, "What do you mean, don't go?" And I said, "Because you're thinking you're going to go and get this out of your system." And I promise you, on your way home, you're going, if I sell this, if I do this extra, if I do this extra,
I'm coming back.
He says the same thing.
Does are kind of like the same thing. Once you start, you better it's part of a management program. That's a continual management program. It doesn't quit. You don't shoot does 1 year and then you go, oh, they won't do that for another 3 or 4 years.
You got to stay at it. But folks, we got to get at it. Okay, We're going to hit the floor and we got to get to work. But we appreciate y'all watching. Larry, thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Keith, Johnny, thank you so very much. Spending time around you guys is a blast anyway, and we don't get a chance to do that very often. So I feel very honored to be on your podcast today.
Well, we're happy to have you.
Thank you, sir.
And folks, we're going to be having a bunch of great guests just like Larry on People Who Hunt, and we're going to put the information on screen on all the platforms you can watch it on. Be sure to be tuning in. And I think we need to get out there, gentlemen.
I do
Get
too.
back to work.
Hey,
get back to work.
We'll get you next time.
Yes.
Thanks for watching.
People Who Hunt can be watched on Facebook and YouTube and listened to on all major platforms.